So you think you got a lot to say? Well, I think you better clear the space. When it comes to movies, I got the better taste. No one knows what you're talking about anyway.
So yeah, today we're going to be talking about some comedies, the comedies that shaped us. We were talking about trying to figure out the Nickelodeon game, figure it out, and I don't know why. I was having issues with that, but yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Just a side note, speaking of game shows, like I've realized that we're now entering this like new era of like not new era, but more like game shows are super popular again, or at least there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like there's just like a show for everything now.
Like the Impractical Jokers now have their own game show too.
Really?
And it's like, yeah, it's forgot what it's called. We're live on, yeah. So like, what's it called? Corey, you'll let us know. Yeah, and it has.
And like Joe McHale is on every single one of like these game
Yeah.
shows, and it's amazing.
Well,
But yeah, sorry.
the Impractical Joker show actually has what's her name from The Good Place, like the really gorgeous actress. I forgot her name.
Kristen Bell.
No, well, Kristen Bell. No, but the one that's no. The
Yeah.
one who has a British accent, who is like posh and very better than everybody, but she's really not. The other main character, like it's her, Chidi, guy, and her.
Does she have like a
I
floofy,
just remember
like-
Chidi's name, and
she have like puffy sleeves? She wear that?
no, it's not Janet. It's not Janet. It's
I
not the
haven't
robot.
seen that show, so you're like
You haven't
speaking
seen?
language.
Wait, whoa! You haven't? Wait, you are such a big Kristen Bell fan, and you haven't seen? Wait, and I thought you like The Office and Parks and Rec, right?
Yeah.
How have
like
you not
in a
seen
healthy
it?
way?
Wait,
Yeah.
and you know Brooklyn Nine-Nine. You watched 3 of the 4 Michael Schur shows. How have you not
Yeah.
seen Good Place?
I mean, to be fair, I waited like a decade and a half to see The Office, so I waited a long time. I usually do that with shows. I don't know why. I just do.
No, it makes sense. I mean, I'm kind of the same way. We just started watching an animated show called Infinity Train last night. I thoroughly do not like it at all. I think it has the worst pacing of any cartoon I've ever seen ever. But I have a ton of animator friends who absolutely love that show, so I feel like I'm missing out on something. We watched the first 3 episodes, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't care less. It literally has the worst pacing I've ever seen of any live action or animated show ever. It's like there's like no resolution at the end, and it just like cuts to credits, and then like you don't care about anybody. They introduce like 8 characters all at once, expecting you to
Wow.
to know who they are, and you're just like,
It sounds like our
I don't.
podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like, no, it's fine. It's just it's so weird because like I love Adventure Time, and Adventure Time does it, but for some reason, every time you meet a character, you love them, and then this show like it wasn't. And then like I think I want to compare it mostly to another new show that I love that came out recently, which is called Owl House. Have you watched the Owl House yet on Disney
Oh,
Plus?
I've heard of the Owl House. I have not seen it though.
It is unbelievable. It is so great.
Really?
I absolutely think it's one of the best shows right now. Along with Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Keep saying Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon.
I need to stop saying that.
Shout out to Captain Falco.
Yeah, right. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and yeah, I don't really know what else I'm watching right now. I watched Generation on. We're talking about comedies today. Why am I talking about Generation? But if you have HBO Max and you like Gen Z stuff or millennial stuff, Generation's unbelievable. Yeah, Justice Smith is amazing. One of my favorite actors right now. So, anyways, Sam, you take the reins for a second.
Hey, so cool. I have a question for you. So let's start at the very beginning. So
Okay.
what types of comedies did you used to watch as a kid? Baby Tyler, what kind of shows or like movies did you think were really funny? You don't have to, it doesn't have to be like super, super young, but like kind of when you started realizing like, hey, I really like comedies or I really like the art of comedy.
Yeah. When I was 2 years old, I watched Child's Play. I'm kidding. No. The amazing comedy Child's Play. No, I think so. When I was younger, I really liked Adam Sandler because he was loud and made funny noises and whatnot. And my dad was not having it because he couldn't stand Adam Sandler. And I don't like Adam Sandler comedies at all anymore, including the old ones. Like, I don't like any of them anymore. It's like watching Space Jam, where I'm like, "Ooh, why did I like this? This is terrible."
Right.
My priorities were not in place. Yeah, I love Adam Sandler. I think he's a great person. I think he's an amazing drama actor. Cannot get behind his comedy. But I think what really affected me was when my dad showed me Coming to America. That's absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. It has definitely shaped my type of comedy. And also another movie that you probably never heard of. It's called it's 1982 Arthur with Dudley Moore, John Gielgud, and Liza Minnelli. Absolutely one of my top 10 movies of all time.
I think you told me about this movie a while ago. Like
I
at
talk
some
about it a
point.
lot. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
it's just one of those movies that has like some great one-liners. Some stuff doesn't, of course, like from the 80s, it doesn't it's not pertinent or anything or good like now, like, or it doesn't age well. Some
Right.
jokes, including the beginning of the movie when they roll up to two ladies of the evening, and but yeah, it's and so, but I mean, I love the movie very much. I just think one of my favorite things. It was just, or like Liza Minnelli falls in love with Arthur, who is a millionaire at this point, and Liza Minnelli is just a worker and was very, very poor, and he's supposed to marry some really boring rich lady that he does not love, and he falls in love with Liza Minnelli, and she goes home, and she's just like, I want to see this guy. I actually really like this guy, and he was just, and the dad, she lives with her dad, and her dad's just like, oh yeah, like, what does this bum do anyway? She goes, Dad, he's a millionaire, and he just goes, you have my permission to marry him.
Typical.
And so I don't know. I think those are like probably the two comedies that have really just defined my type of comedy today, especially Coming to America with the wackiness, different characters and stuff like that. It really got me into just kind of like really enjoying seeing people just be kind of weird and crazy and see like this really big story with some really funny characters, Soul Glow and whatnot. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching, now that you're mentioning some of these movies, I'm like, "Oh my god, that's right. I watched these movies as a kid." I was like taking some notes real fast so I didn't forget, sorry. Um like watching these movies as a kid, like thinking back, I'm like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have seen these movies so young, but here we are, you know?" And it's funny because when you go back and rewatch them, you're like, "Wow, that really went over, that joke went way over my head. I had no idea."
Yeah.
Or oof, this is cringy. Yikes. This would never be made today. And I don't think it's funny today, or, if, so like, for example, like I haven't gone back and watched, I've never been like a big Adam Sandler fan, but occasionally he's funny. Like my sister's a big fan, so like we'll watch it sometimes, and I think it's more like I like to spend time with her watching something that she enjoys, and like
Yeah.
something that we can just like laugh about because it's stupid. So I have to like switch my brain off, Like I love Rob Schneider and David Spade. I think they're hilarious. I do think they're funny.
Oh wow.
But I do. I think they're funny. It's really stupid.
I do like David Spade. I will say I
yeah,
do like
David Spade is yeah. So I watched Happy Gilmore a lot when I was a kid. I really liked it. I thought it was funny, but I don't really remember like a ton of it. Like I haven't seen it as an adult. So I'm not sure if it would still be like holding up to today, but a movie in particular though, I would say that was kind of setting me up on the right track to like my style of humor was Men in Tights. Robin Hood Men in
Yes.
Tights. That movie was great. Like it's still funny. It's still funny. And so it kind of like makes sense thinking back, because like I have older like cousins that like we all grew up together, and they're like my brothers. So they're like 3 and 6 years older than me. So they were watching other things, and I'm like a little kid, like I have no idea. But they loved Men in Tights. I know that for sure. And Spaceballs as well, of course. But so both of those are really funny to me.
Yeah, I do love Mel
Yeah.
Brooks. I
Yes.
actually forgot about History World Part 1. I would watch that on repeat when I was a kid. I loved that movie so much. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, The Inquisition, what a show. Yeah, but Yeah, man, and producers like the original and the new one. I love
Yeah.
both of those when I was a kid. Whenever I watched them. Yeah,
Young
that's right. Oh,
Frankenstein as well.
I forgot about the Marx Brothers. My dad made me watch all the Marx Brothers when I was 8 years old, and I fell in love with them. I even have like a marionette thing of Groucho. Like I
Oh my
love.
god.
Wait, do I have? I not behind me, but
I
yeah,
was like, bring him in. Welcome our guest.
yeah, right, yeah. Harpo, Chico, Groucho, Zeppo. Let's do this. Yeah, no, I really loved the Marx Brothers. I could not get into the Three Stooges. Abbott and Costello were okay. But I really liked I'm forgetting what their names are. The other guys, the ones who dance. Well, what was the movie with John C. Riley and Steve? Oh man. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You go. Sorry.
It's okay. So you mentioned the Three Stooges. That was short lived for me because I really did like them. I thought they were funny because I would watch it with my grandfather. My grandfather thought it was
Mm,
super funny, right? So I enjoyed it. And again, I think it kind of goes back to more like spending time with a loved one, enjoying something that's silly. Um,
yeah.
but he also introduced me to Buster Keaton, and Buster Keaton is
Mm,
still one of my favorites. He's not exactly, I mean, he's funny, but it's just like it's kind of a performance art. He is a
yeah.
storyteller at heart. But so I don't want to say he's super comedy, but while we're in the realm of like older material, just because like he's not just a clown, not like MGM treated him when he like sold out to them. But I get it,
Yeah.
money, it's tough. It's a tough business. So but yeah, no, Buster Keaton is still one of my favorites. You can actually find a lot, if not all, of his movies for free on YouTube. So Sherlock Jr.
Really?
is one of my favorites. Yeah, Sherlock
I did
Jr.
not
is
know that.
really good. Yeah, you can. That's great when it's like over 100 years old, right? So,
Yeah.
that's
Also,
funny.
I was thinking of Laurel and Hardy. I loved Laurel and Hardy
Oh yeah,
as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yes, Laurel and Hardy, they're great too. Um, and then of course I'm sure you were the same way, Tyler, but I Love Lucy really
Mm,
defined a lot for me. I Love Lucy, and then like side note, because while we're talking about like females in comedy, especially of that time, right? So a little before that, there was Katharine Hepburn, and I
mm.
love her to death because she's so funny and she's zany and stuff. She's still elegant and pretty and like all that like a woman should be, which is something I look up to as well. I mean, okay,
I know.
this is
I
like
know.
the
I know.
40s, it's the 40s, but she would wear pants and like take these risks with comedy and be silly and goofy, not really care about always like looking beautiful or like gazing off into the distance or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's really refreshing and nice to see women in comedy taking like I would say risks at that time, and doing it well, like especially like Lucille Ball. She
Yeah.
was a staple for a lot of female comedians, and I would say just a lot of comedians in general,
She was
probably.
amazing. I
But I
love
always hear
Lucille
it with
Ball.
female comedians. Yes, yeah.
Absolutely. I think like another like going down that route as well, like Some Like It Hot with like Marilyn Monroe I thought was also hilarious and was able to really bounce back off of like really big slapstick or really big humor like with dealing with now I'm forgetting what their names are who are also in that movie, but I just remember her. But is it Jack Lemmon and I can't remember Some Like It Hot. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I hear that, and I think you and I have talked about this a lot. Joan Rivers is like one of the most influential comedians, and just anybody for me. I love her to death. I'm really glad, or not glad. Sorry, I am really sad that she is gone. I really do miss hearing her and everything like that. And I mean, she was a huge thing, especially for like being the guest host for the Tonight Show. That was a big deal, especially for women and women in comedy. And yeah, no, I her when anytime it was like Lucille Ball and Joan Rivers in the room was also like hilarious. I don't know if you actually knew this. This isn't like early on. This was like in college, but I got really obsessed with roasts, with Hollywood roasts, especially when I found out that what Comedy Central had been doing for a while. In the 90s and early 2000s, they used to do like the New York Friar Club roasts where it's an actual like group of people. You have to be and you have to be in, oh my God, I can't think of words right now, but you have to be, they go to you and they ask you to come in. You have to be really good at comedy and be able to take a joke. and it's like some of like really big of the biggest and best comedians of Hollywood. And there are some old ones when it was really, really, really big with Dean Martin was one of the heads of it with oh my god, I'm forgetting everybody's names now. But anyways, there's like three main people. Dean Martin being one of them and making it a really, really big deal. And there's some old videos of like Betty White going in and just going in for the kill. If you want to know about her comedy, she was a firecracker and the greatest. Not only is Betty White like one of the greatest people ever, like it just seems like, but like, man, she went hard on people and it was great. It was wonderful. And so that's another thing where I think also where the self-deprecation humor that I use as well comes from is from like watching roasts and watching like really powerful people like Lisa Lampanelli is definitely extremely influential for me. I love her to death. Where she was able to make fun of herself, but then like it was like one burn to myself, two burns to you kind of humor. It was like really great. And so yeah. Anyway, there's also that. I'm just trying to think of like other things that like where my comedy styles came from, but yeah, it also kind of bounced off what you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. I would say too that there are, I mean, I the Princess Diaries for me was everything, right? So like you think of it like, but that's actually a really good movie. So like if you go back and watch it, it's actually really good. It has a lot of heart. It has a lot of humor as well. And so I think that again, seeing another female I wouldn't really classify that movie as a comedy, but there's just a lot of funny lines that are like hidden in the background, of that movie that you have to like go back and listen to. Because it's like an extra or somebody off screen saying something that's just like really hilarious. Gary, what is his name? Oh my god.
Gary
The director.
Shandling? Oh.
No. Oh my gosh.
Marshall?
The director of that movie. Gary Marshall.
It is Gary Marshall?
Yes, it's Gary Marshall. And he had a really good knack at doing these little subtle like funny lines, that just make the movie really charming, funny, enjoyable, and rewatchable as well. Because they're so little and minute that like sometimes you forget it. So when you go back and watch it, they hit a little harder, So like the art of subtlety in comedy, I think, is really important too, because I typically don't like the loud, obnoxious type of comedians. I typically don't think that they're they're not who I gravitate to. I'm not saying they're not funny. It's just like not who I gravitate to.
Which ones don't you like? Just so I know, so I can judge you.
I don't spend much time thinking about like comedians like I don't like, and I also don't like to say that they could never be funny.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But because I think comedy is very subjective, and
That's true.
I mean, and that's a tricky thing of comedy, Tyler, because I was just reading an article about this where, it's like, where is that line? Like, everyone is so PC and so concerned about like not hurting people's feelings and not being inappropriate, which is good. But then it's like, where do you draw that line in comedy when it's your job to like be funny? Like, where's that line for you as a comedian, and also in general for the general public? Like, I think I was watching Aziz Ansari's special on like Netflix like a while back. Yes, it was him. And he said a joke that I really didn't think was funny. Like I thought it was really weird and like gross. And I don't really remember this. I don't remember the setup for it, but it like involved children and I just didn't like it. And I just turned it off, but I didn't like go out and try to cancel him or anything for it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I just didn't think it was funny. It wasn't for me. Like, what are your opinions on comedians crossing that line?
Usually, it just depends. I think I listen to so many comedians that sometimes I can just, and it's funny too because I've talked about this with like Marcellus and Lamar, a lot, and also Ben Patton, because I stand-up comedy is one of the most important things to me. Something I will never try because I am not a good storyteller, but I do enjoy. It's hard to explain. When I go to a show and stuff like that, or if I listen or watch something, I'm very I'm kind of like analytical about it and like kind of like I'm trying to think of like the word, but I'm analyzing them essentially. Like always, it's and so if there are jokes that I don't like, I'll just keep going. I always want to finish a set. There are only a few where I never actually did finish. Like there was a Pete Holmes. I love Pete Holmes, but there was a set that he did that's on Netflix that I just couldn't get through because it was like 10 jokes in a row where I was like, dude, you're so much better than this. And I just turned it off. When they go over the line, like I think Dave Chappelle did it a couple times. I really hated his LGBT, his
I turned his off.
in a car bit.
Yes.
I thought it ran way too long. I think it was extremely off. Not just
That's
morally.
when I turned off the special.
Yeah, I watched the entire thing because I was told by too many people that I need to watch it, and it was too important. Because I actually never really liked Dave Chappelle stand up all that much. I think when people compared him to Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, I thought that was extremely insulting because they're all very different.
Right.
I would actually wholeheartedly think that that Cat Williams was actually closer to Richard Pryor, and I would say that Kevin Hart was closer to Eddie Murphy, and I've said that a few times. If you're going to compare comedians to other comedians, that's going to be the closest ones that you would. I don't think Dave Chappelle was anything like them at all. I think Dave Chappelle, if anything, was closer to maybe a little bit more grumpy George Carlin, who was less progressive. Like, I would compare him more to energy of George Carlin, but definitely not content-wise. And, so that's my thing about Dave Chappelle and my little stand-up, thoughts. But Dave Chappelle and I just don't really agree.
Yeah, you just don't. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't hang. No, but only because of that. Only no. I watched it and I just thought it was very mediocre. I think people who just absolutely kill it are like every single. I think basically like the comedians that I think that like when I go into it, I know I'm gonna be dying. Or like John Mulaney, Patton, and that's the other thing about Patton Oswalt is it's more than comedy because he shows a lot of vulnerability and brings in a lot of other like really really heavy stuff. And so
I've never seen his stand up, but I really like him. I've seen him.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up. I think it's called Annihilation. I'm trying to remember what his set is. Yeah, Annihilation is one after his wife passed away, and he finally, talks about it. But and so yeah. Anyway, but I would say like the people who I just know for a fact that I'll be laughing really hard are Patton Oswalt, John Mulaney, Tiffany Haddish. I love her. I love her
she's so great.
much. I still think that what's her name? Wanda Sykes is like unbelievable. And I'm trying to think of all of the soundtracks that I have. Kristen Schaal is actually a really great comedian. She doesn't do comedy all that much anymore. Moshe Kasher is one of my favorites as well. But yeah, anyways, those are some of my and Tom Segura is unbelievable. And then of course The Machine. I think he is. I think he has the weirdest storytelling, the weirdest comedy set up, and Bert Kreischer is just unbelievable. He is so funny, and I can't believe they're making another movie about his college days. Did you know that Van Wilder, the first movie, is based on Bert's parties because Bert was on the news as the number one partier in America.
Oh, really?
And Van Wilder, they paid him for some of his stories and made the movie Van Wilder. The Van Wilder, yeah. So, and now they're making another movie about his college days too.
Oh my god!
And so, there was another comedian I just had on the top of my head. But those are just current ones. Those aren't like ones like overall. But there was another one that I just had in my head and I just forgot. I'll also say Tracy Morgan. Anytime Tracy Morgan is on stage on a mic, I think it's just his persona. I think he can literally just be reading off like his to-do list, and I would still laugh like crazy. I just think it's just how he presents himself. It's just so brilliant. But anyways, what about you? What are some of the comedians that you just love to watch?
Well, some of them are the same as you. So I mean, I love Tiffany Haddish. and I love John Mulaney, of course. Like
Yeah.
I've had the chance to see him twice in person,
Wow.
so it was awesome, super great. And and I had seen his stuff before on Netflix, but so the anticipation of seeing him live was just awesome. I forget who opened for him, but for one of the times we saw him, like that guy was really funny, and I wish I remembered his name.
Hmm.
But so like a pinnacle moment in like my like comedy upbringing, like like no one send me a hate mail for this one. No, I'm just kidding. But the soup with Joel McHale specifically. So that really made me like the sarcastic person I am today. But yeah, just oh god. So like of course that's when I first saw Joel McHale and I was like, who is this guy? And then and then he started being in things here and there and having like one line and then and then finally on that little show called Community that we love so much that of
Yeah.
course we have to bring up because we bring it up every show, but that's how much we love it. It's on Netflix. Please watch it. So that from Community, seeing Joel McHale, I got to see him live one time. He actually like he like talked to me in the audience because he was like anyone from this city, and I was the only one from my city there, and it was like just down the road, so I was surprised, but it was cool. So it was a fun evening that we had, and he's hilarious. The way he does his comedy is very conversational. So like it just
Yeah.
that's like kind of my favorite version of stand-up comedy. Is very like you're hanging out with a friend and they're telling you a story. So
Yeah, it reminds me
instead
of
of
like
like
Joe Coy is like a prime example of that too.
mm, mm. That's I just think it's the most like authentic version of it. You're not like being taken out of you're like, "Oh, are they going to start their set? Oh my god, like this is the set." That's kind of how it feels. So, going in that Community vein, you go to Donald Glover and I loved his comedy special. His was a little bit like a little crazy for me, but
I love
on
his.
Netflix,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my god, I was like crying. It was so funny. And then
Weirdo,
I
right?
got I'm
Yeah.
sorry?
Weirdo. I think was what it's called.
I think that's the one, yeah. The his, like, Home Depot bit killed me, like, I still think about that today. Every time I see a Home Depot sign, I think of his Home Depot story, but, I'm, like, gonna laugh about it right now. So, keeping with the Community, I got really excited to see Ken Jeong's set, or Netflix special, and I have to say I was disappointed because it wasn't that funny to me. Like it wasn't that great. Like it was fine.
Yeah.
I kind of settled like in my mind that like Ken Jeong, like I love him to death, but he's a good like side character. But I feel like he can't like be the leading man, on his own. So that's just kind of I don't know. That's just kind of how I feel about like his style. But he seems like a really nice guy and he's really smart. So that's cool. I feel bad saying that about him, but that's just how I felt with that one special.
And there are a lot of actors who are like that. They're like, I don't want to be the main character. I just want to be a good side character. Like there are a lot of
Yeah.
actors that are just not great, unfortunately. On as the main focus of something. So
Right.
I
Maybe if it
agree
was
with
like a
you.
buddy cop, so he has someone to play off of, like,
Yeah.
constantly, maybe that would
I
work, but
I love Ken Jeong, but yeah, I had no
yeah,
interest in Dr. Ken. I had no interest in
it
his
wasn't
stand
very
up
good.
or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Oh my God. I will. I don't know who. Wait. So who are three of your favorite stand-up comedians who are no longer with us, and then who do you think are the three best things in comedy right now?
Oh gosh, that is a big question. Why don't you go first on that one? I'm gonna have to
No,
think about it.
number one best, in my honest opinion, number one best, who is no longer with us, comedians, is gonna be Patrice O'Neill.
Oh,
Patrice O'Neill was the greatest. I honestly do think he was just one of the greats. Bernie Mac was unbelievable, and Sam Kinison are my top three. Um,
see, I'm really shocked that you didn't say Robin Williams.
I love Robin Williams stand up.
Yeah.
I think he was a little repetitive. I think a
Mm.
lot of his jokes were repetitive. I you know what? It's actually because here's the thing. Kevin James is somebody who really pisses me off in comedy and in everything else, because the man is very talented. I don't know if you saw that
Right.
movie where he was a boxer. I think Here Comes the Boom. It was like an
Yeah.
actual like serious film. He's a good serious actor, like most comedians are, because comedians are very tortured people. Kevin James had a set that was called Sweat the Small Stuff, which is one of the I will absolutely say this. And Joan Rivers also, not Joan Rivers. What's her name? Oh my God, why am I forgetting her name? I'm seeing her face. Um, it doesn't matter. Another great old stand-up comedians. There was a thing on Comedy Central where they did the top 100 comedians of all time, and she made a very good point. She was just like, this was one of the greatest sets of all time. Sweat the Small Stuff is an hour of good family comedy, better than anything, I would say, honestly, that any other family comedian could emulate. Maybe not so much. Unfortunately, I have to say his name. I, of course, do not reflect on how he is now, but what we knew of him back then in his just judging his stand-up comedy, Bill Cosby was the king of family comedy.
Right.
And then along came, we had the Blue Collar Comedy Tour people, Jeff Foxworthy. Well, I think that Kevin James, early 2000s, him like Pablo Francisco and a couple other people who just blew up from their one set on Comedy Central Presents. Kevin James, Sweat the Small Stuff was still one of the greatest sets of all time. And it is really unfortunate where he is now, and working with just like Adam Sandler and making movies like Paul Blart Mall Cop, which are giving people happiness and fun and joy. But like it's the same thing with he's dug himself into a hole like Melissa McCarthy, where they're both extremely two different talented people doing like the same stuff over and over and over again,
Right.
and not going back to doing something that they're like clearly really good at and passionate about. Because not a lot of times are there whole sets where every single joke lands. Kevin James did it in that 1 hour long set where not one joke fell flat. Every single one of them were hilarious, and every single comedian, even John Mulaney, even the great John Mulaney, has had some jokes that are like, oh, okay, all right, keep going. But like, no, so Kevin James would have been up there if he kept going, and he just stopped. He just went straight to movies, and it just really sucks. Yeah. Nick Swartzen was great too. One of my favorite bits of all time was him talking about his funeral, where he's just like, I just want everybody to see the coffin and they think I'm in there, but I won't be. And then halfway through, my body comes down on wires. And then techno music starts playing. And my mom's like, what happened to my son? What did he do? And like, that's just like one of my favorite. And then talking about like having like a D-list celebrity come in, go stand over your coffin, cry, and then walk away. Like you pay them just to come and just cry. So everyone's like, dude, is that John Stamos? Like that's like one of my favorite bits and like one of the dumbest jokes, and it still sticks with me today. But Nick Swartzen just like stopped, and he just makes crap, and he just plays things like Bucky Larson and all this other stuff, and you're just like, man, what happened to you? So anyway, so back to that Patrice O'Neal, especially about the receipt and the white baby bit is unbelievable. Bernie Mac was taken way too soon for us. His relatable comedy and storytelling was amazing, and Bernie Mac's show was unbelievable. And Sam Kinison died way too early and way too tragically. Such irony, and was one of the greatest shock comedians of all time. I think right now people who are really helping us with comedy shape it. I know he said he's retired, but I really hope he comes back. Bo Burnham, I think, is actually the future of comedy. I love Bo Burnham. I love him so much. I think he is one of the most talented people. 8th Grade is an unbelievable film.
Yeah, I just saw it. Yeah.
He was great in...
he's a great director.
Yeah, he was great in The Big Sick, which is one of my favorite films of all time. So I love Bo Burnham, and I love his stand-up. I've watched Make Happy, I would say 20 times. And I cry every single time during I Can't Handle This Right Now. So I think it's one of the greatest bits. It's hilarious. It's tragic. It's depressing. All the emotions come out in that 8-minute bit, and and that song, and it's just unbelievable. And he jabs at Kanye West, which is also great too. Number 2, Ronnie Chang, I think is one of the greatest, most hilarious just raw comedy. He just doesn't care what he's saying, and he says it where he just looks so pissed off and he sounds so pissed off, but you also get like this sense of like teddy bearness to him. It's hilarious. Like I don't know if have you seen Crazy Rich Asians?
Yes.
He's the really uptight cousin where he's just like take a picture, and he's like
Yeah.
yelling at his family the whole time, and he's like saying really horrific things to people like constantly. That's Ronnie Chang. He has a set
Yeah.
he has two different sets that's available right now. I think one on Netflix and another one somewhere else. He has one where he talks about Amazon Prime, and it's hilarious. Yeah, Ronnie Chang I think is definitely one of the people who's also like the future of like the most important people in comedy. And then we've been naming him so many times before. I have to give it to John Mulaney. I just think he perfected and really showed us the importance of storytelling, how to tell a story,
Mhm.
how to grab an audience. Like I feel like he did everything. Not to downplay him because he is one of the greats still today, but you know I think he perfected everything that Bobcat Goldthwait wanted without doing a silly voice. So
Mm.
yeah.
He doesn't do a silly voice.
Yeah, John Mulaney is a very he's like, I wonder. Yeah, no,
No, I'm just
but
kidding.
yeah.
No, he's great. Yeah, he's great. So for me, there aren't a lot of comedians that like, because I am like tiptoeing into the world of like stand-up comedy. I don't really like partake a lot in, but I do enjoy it. I think because for me, it's like I'm a little picky with like the type of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
So I can't think of like stand-up comedians that that have passed on that were my favorite necessarily, but yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Robin Williams, I can see what you're saying about him. The but the few that I think that maybe are coming up in the world of comedy, uh Middleditch and Swartz. Have you
Yeah.
seen that?
Well,
Um
yeah, that's improv. I don't know if I would like constitute that as like stand up, but
okay, okay.
I'll allow it.
Oh, okay,
I'll
fantastic.
allow
I
it.
think because I want
That's
to
a
just
reference.
bring
I
that
made a
show
reference to
up. You're
Middleditch and
right.
Schwartz.
It is improv, you're right. But I just thought it was clever. I love them. And but yeah, moving on. Um shoot.
I made a reference to Middleditch and Schwartz, and you completely missed it.
No, I totally did, but I'm because
I
the
say
gears are
I'll
turning.
allow it with the ghost of the wedding.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. I got it. Okay, I got it
Wow.
now.
Okay. Cool.
I
Wow.
got it now.
Okay.
I
Cool.
got it.
Knee slap.
I'm sorry.
I'll go.
Oh
Wow.
no, you
I'll just go cry
I
myself.
totally forgot who I was gonna say too. So
Oh,
I'm
I'm
just
so
gonna say
sorry.
who I think is really funny, and I really, really love Nick Kroll. I think just like anytime he pops up, does he do stand up? I know he had his Nick Kroll show that is amazing, but I don't know if he does stand up. Does he?
I don't know. Actually, let me see.
It threw me off with the stand up bit, I guess.
I mean,
But anytime Nick Kroll is
I
in
mean,
something, he's so funny.
I would say, Oh Hello is stand up because remember, stand up is okay. There are certain people that can just go up on stage and be funny. They'll have some things written out and they'll know some things that they want to hit. But like what you were saying, conversational comedians do exist, and a lot of them they'll just do things on the spot. Another person who was my honorable mention, by the way, it was Ali Wong. I want to give her as much credit as possible
Oh,
because
she's
she's
great.
amazing, and
Yeah,
Elijah
she is
Schlesinger.
great.
But anyway, Joe Coy is prime example of somebody. I went to a Joe Coy stand up. It was supposed to be an hour long. It went 2 hours long, and I think out of all the jokes that he said, 3 of them were written down or prepped beforehand.
Oh wow.
Everything. I mean, he's just so funny. Nick Kroll stand up. Yes, he did do stand up in the early 2000s, and oh my god, he's young. He looks so young. It
Yeah,
looks
no,
like
he's
he
funny.
does it a lot, but never really. He doesn't do it with Comedy Central or or it doesn't look like.
Oh,
So there's one called Thank You Very Cool from 2011, but
mhm.
no, that looks like okay. It looks like it says stand up comedy, but there's a bunch of characters in it. So I don't know if that's. 'Cause I've always been one of those people where it's like there's prop comedy, there are impressionists, but I feel like if you're doing completely different characters with different um costumes and stuff like that, that's more of a sketch comedy. And maybe that's
Right.
just me being ignorant, but like I feel like there's a very, very big difference because when you're doing sketches, when you're doing in characters and costumes and stuff like that, you're taking the audience, you're taking away the audience from the like, or the relationship between a stand-up comedian and them talking to you and then a sketch. Right? I feel like Oh Hello on
Right.
Broadway, because most of it is them talking to the audience. I actually would consider that more stand-up comedy than I would. Maybe it seems like what he did, which is called Thank You Very Cool, where it's just him playing a bunch of different characters and putting out scenarios. Oh Hello on Broadway is them really talking to the audience, saying one-liner jokes over and over and over again with a very minimal story, which is fine
Right.
because some sets have stories. Like if you look at Camille Nanjiani has done that before, where his whole set will have a story. Bo Burnham's whole thing will have a whole story to it, or a point of it. Patton Oswalt as well. Brian Posehn, Whitney Cummings, other people will do that as well. And it's sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. And so yeah. Anyway, I
Oh,
love
totally.
stand up.
I
Can you
also
tell I love stand up comedy? Can you tell?
yeah. I also want to take it back to Kevin James. First of all, I wrote that down because I want to watch it. Second of all, I just saw him like this last year, I think, in a movie with, of course, Joel McHale. But it was called Becky, and he was great in it. He
Yeah.
played a bad guy. He played like the baddest dude,
Yes.
ever.
That's what it was. The villain one. Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
he's unbelievable in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say though, like his role, I feel is kind of small. It was smaller than I would have anticipated it being, but that movie's great actually. Like it was kind of weird, but it was
Yeah.
really good. It was good, and the performances, were great. Of course. Side note, fan casted him as the Thing
Ben
for
Grimm.
Fantastic Four because I think he'd be great at it. But everyone laughed at me. That's fine. It's okay.
I don't think he would be bad. I just really want a Jewish actor to play Ben Grimm. I think we finally need Ben Grimm represented correctly, because especially for him, Judaism is such a big thing.
I don't know Kevin James like background or anything, so
Oh yeah.
but yeah, true. So a show that I've been watching recently that I think Tyler you also watched a lot. But I grew up on it as well. Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because it's on HBO Max. And wow. I love Wayne Brady so much. Man. Like I wish he would like do more things now. It's like I know he was on like The Masked Singer, I guess, spoiler.
I was saying he does like so many game shows, reality shows. It's like, oh man, come on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That I wanted to go to Let's Make a Deal just so I can maybe meet him because he's cool.
Right. But he's also
money,
he's also in Black Lightning. He's the villain, isn't he? Isn't he like the overarching villain or something? I haven't watched any CW shows in a while, so like I haven't watched Batwoman, Supergirl. I tried to watch Supergirl the first season and couldn't get into it, but I love her. I love the casting. I just think that the writing was very subpar.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I agree. But yeah, I guess like so in more recent times, yeah, I've been watching Whose Line Is It Anyway a lot. It's so funny. It's still so good. And then I'm jumping around a little bit, but we both love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it's really interesting. I'm interested to see how they wrap up their final season with everything that's happened. And it's a tough situation, but it's understandable. But it's a tough situation because I felt like go ahead.
You go ahead.
Well, I feel like that show could be like the thing is about that show is like it could literally I feel like really take place anywhere, like in any sort of like office, like it could be a regular office, and it would still be so funny because I feel like them being cops is like such a like almost such a minimal part of the show. But I did love the one episode where they had with it was kind of like an after school special sort of thing. It kind of took a turn for that show because usually it's not very serious. They did have a serious episode with Terry Crews, which I thought was great. So it will be interesting to see how they wrap this final show up or final season up. But yeah, I mean, I think it's more like the characters / like the actors that are portraying these characters that we fall in love with, not necessarily like the character's occupation. But
sometimes in the show I do forget they're cops. I'm not gonna lie.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Yeah, I totally do. I know because it's like it's such a minor part, and yeah, it pushes some plot points forward for the show, but it's so silly and zany that I don't know. It's
Yeah.
it will be interesting. But another one, I think actually you introduced me to this one. It's Kim's Convenience, and that
Yeah,
show's
I was
ending.
just about to say that, and I'm so
Yeah.
upset. I don't know if I
Yeah,
want to
me
watch
too.
it. I don't know if I want to watch the last season.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know because then it's like it's over and then, did you hear why they're ending it? Do you know why?
well, did you hear about why am I forgetting his name? Kimmy Lou. Wait, what's his name?
Simu Liu? I don't know if I
Simu Lou.
pronounced it
Sorry,
right.
Simu Lou. Sorry, Kim's convenient. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I love
Did
him.
you hear? Did you hear about? Oh, I think he's unbelievable. I think
Yeah,
I want him in everything. I want
me
all of
too.
them. All the actors in that show
They're
are fantastic.
yeah.
But he really is unbelievable with like comedy, and anyway, it doesn't matter. Did you read about his tweets though about regarding the end of the show?
No, I follow him on Twitter, so I caught just a tiny bit of it, but I don't know much about the situation.
So no, he basically says there is no resolution. They just end the show.
Wow.
He basically just said, "Hey guys, like he's upset as he should
Yeah.
be, and he should
Oh,
be
he doesn't
calling it
hold
out.
back on Twitter. Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
And he shouldn't. Honestly, I actually applaud him for being an actor, basically being like, "Hey guys, you've been watching this show for 7 years or for 6 years now, and the show's ending because the creators want to move on to something else. They had a 3-season deal, and they're cutting it for the first one, and for no reason. And yeah, he says you will not see the Kim's family together at the end of the season.
Oh my God.
Like he let us know, and I'm
Oh,
very happy he did that
yeah,
because
no
I
kidding.
I couldn't imagine like Schitt's Creek without a resolution or without like a defined end. Like if
Mhm.
they were just like oh, and they just lived in Schitt's Creek forever, like that would have sucked. That would have or like without any other like talking or anything like that. Like they just ended like on a cliffhanger, which I'm
Right.
very scared that Kim or that is a cliffhanger. The whole thing is about bringing them together. It's about Appa, Appa and him coming together. Um, and why am I forgetting his name in the show? Jung, Appa and Jung. About them coming together. And it's just we see little teases and stuff like that throughout the show. But man, it's not gonna hit when like without like the family knowing that he's dating Shannon and bringing her in, and then also just them coming together. So.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sucks. And also, Kim Cheese is like, I want that guy in everything. I
Kimchi is
like,
my favorite character on that show.
I want him and Michael Pena. I want him to be an Ant-Man so we can have like scenes with
Oh,
him and Michael Pena together, and they're
amazing.
both telling stories, but they tell them like completely off, or like they're like two different sides of the same story.
Yes. You reminded me, Ant-Man. Randall Park is my guy, man. Like I love Randall Park so
I
much. He's
I think
great.
I think he's done one set, and it's um let me see. I think he did once set on Netflix or something like that, but
Oh,
I haven't watched it yet, and he's one of my favorites. I need to get on
yeah,
that.
he's great. Yeah, I don't know how he is with the stand-up or like if he did stand up at all.
I'm sure it's the
I
most
want him in
charming stand-up.
everything.
Yeah,
I want him in everything, and it looks like he's being like he's in a lot of stuff now. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, I
it's
think he's
very true.
great. Yeah.
Yeah,
But shows like Arrested Development are great, and except they brought it back for that Netflix season that
yeah.
which is I couldn't get through it. I
There's
couldn't get through it
three.
at
Aren't
all.
there 3 seasons on Netflix?
Really?
I think
That
so.
were done by Netflix. I don't
Yeah.
know.
They
Oh
had the
God,
first.
no, I couldn't get through it.
They had the first season, and then they had the second season. And I think they recut the first season
Mm,
to where it was just like an Arrested Development show. Remember, it was like every episode focused on one character
yes.
each.
Yeah.
They re-edited it so it was like a
Oh.
normal. Yeah. So it
Oh
wasn't like
wow.
that at all. And I
Okay.
was told that it is much better. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it felt off to me. And now that
It
I can't
really
believe Jessica
did.
Walter's gone. I can't believe she's gone. She's amazing. She
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
Rest in peace,
Agreed.
Jessica Walter.
Yeah.
But
Seriously.
yeah, I love Arrested Development. I love the fact that that the narrator is a character, but like
Yeah.
not really at the same time. It's like Ron Howard
Yeah.
just is perfect. Oh
Yeah.
God.
That show was really good. That's another show I waited like forever to watch too. Like I just started watching it like a couple years ago for the first time.
Yeah, most people did. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Nobody watched
cast
it
was
when it was on
amazing.
when
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There are
true.
dozens of us. Dozens. But yeah, yeah.
And it's
That
funny too, because so like
comedy.
there's spin-offs, right? And like spin-offs don't always hit or land or whatever. But especially when you take a movie and then you make a TV spin-off, right? A movie is so different than television.
Yeah.
In many aspects, as we both know. But taking the movie What We Do in the Shadows and then making it a television show was like the most genius thing anyone's ever done because
Yeah.
oh my god, when I tell you that's like one of my favorite shows, like oh you can't see him, but I have like a Nandor portrait up here because
Oh, it's
honestly
amazing.
that is one thing I did like better than the movie
Yeah,
because I,
I
I
like
feel like
the
that
show more than the movie
format
too.
yes, yeah, and that format of like comedy for me works very well in like a TV type like I could binge the whole season, but like being episodic kind of like that, it just like it works. It works
Yeah.
better. It's like tighter.
I have two thoughts on What We Do in the Shadows, like the show. Like one thing, the show wouldn't be as good if it wasn't for the movie. So like the movie is a really
Right.
good like concrete um like yeah, I mean it's a good foundation for the show. I think you can watch the show without watching the movie and you'll like it. But I think if you watch the movie first and then watch the show, you'll get so much more out of it.
Yes.
Secondly, the characters in the show are so much better than the characters in the movie. Not saying that the movie characters are bad. It's just with the show, you get more time with them. You get to see them marinate and see them in different scenarios. Where a movie, you have one plot you need to focus on, sometimes a side plot, but it doesn't take over. And you don't get to see, you just see them growth in one journey. Where in a TV show, you see them multiple. And like Craig or the energy vampire is just the greatest idea. And Matt Berry in anything. Matt Berry needs to be everything. Like I've
Yeah.
said this before. If they casted Matt Berry as Batman, I would see that movie 1,000 times. Um,
Matt Berry as the full cast.
Unhand me, Joker Goon. Um, yeah.
Okay, that is one though. Side note, but like, you know how they always do the famous or infamous alley scene, right? And we're sick of it.
Mhm.
We don't want to see it ever again. We get it. We know what happens. Okay, it's like this. Everybody knows. My like 2-month old nephew knows like what happened to Batman's parents. Okay. However, if Matt Berry does Batman, if Matt Berry becomes Batman in a movie, they better freaking do that flashback. But I want Matt Berry as like
In the
himself.
scene.
Like
Yeah.
he's
I want
supposed
I
to be
want
like,
I want a kid with Matt Berry's head just like
yeah.
on top of it.
He's like,
With
Daddy, no.
beard and all, like, Father, no, Mother. Uh,
And like a wide shot, like they pull back and he's just on his knees. He's like, no, like in the alleyway.
I would see that movie. So I want like him to be very silly and crazy, and everybody else like super serious, like Nolan serious.
Yeah. Yes, that'd be
That would be
great.
the greatest thing. I love Matt Berry. He is a treasure. He is a international treasure. If you haven't seen Toast of London, it's so good.
Yeah,
I
I
actually,
have it.
oh
Oh.
man, it's all on Netflix. He is just the greatest. He is just the absolute greatest. Yeah, like once they casted him in What We Do in the Shadows, I was like, I don't care about anybody else. I don't care who else is casted. He's the only one. Like that's you won. It's the same feeling when they said James Gunn for Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like, I don't care who's in this movie. This movie's gonna be great. Like I don't care. James Gunn is
Right.
that good. And the same thing with the new Batman movie with Matt Reeves. Like I was like, I don't give a flying fuck who's in it. What is it about? Like it's Matt Reeves directing. It cannot be bad. And so, and now that we have, oh my god, I forgetting his name. I keep wanting to say Hayden Christensen because there's so much Star Wars talk recently. Why am I forgetting Robert Pattinson? And I'm so happy with him being Batman. I'm so excited. And then Paul Dano as Riddler. What's his
Oh
name as
wow.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
What's his name with the amazing voice? Oh
Wait,
man,
who's Billy Gordon?
what?
Because
He was
I can
Hunger
only think
Games
of
and
the penguin.
everything. He's just I mean, he's in Westworld. Jeffrey. I just have his first name. I can't remember his last name. But anyways, yeah, like man, I can't wait for the Batman. That's just I
What's
just
his name?
can't wait.
Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell as the penguin.
Penguin. That's pretty cool.
My gosh.
So unrecognizable. But I'm more excited for Paul Dano as Riddler. In
Yeah,
all
he's
honesty,
insane. I love him.
that's the one I'm most excited for. And also Andy Serkis is Alfred. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And Zoe Kravitz is Catwoman. That is
Yes.
awesome. I really like her,
Yeah.
so I'm excited. But
Yeah, me too.
we should probably end. We're coming up on an hour,
Yeah.
but do you have anything
This
else
has
you want
been
to talk
about
about? Sam?
comedy.
Yeah,
Comedy
and
and
Batman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, comedy is my favorite like genre, or at least like if a movie or something is funny, because real world is so dark all the time that it's nice to take time to laugh like voluntarily. Does that make sense? Anyway,
Of course.
yeah, so thanks comedy, we owe you one.
Thanks, comedy.
And yeah, I'll be opening up my Redbubble shop like probably today, so
Oh wow,
that's exciting. Betty Geek, of course, on Twitch, on Instagram, and Etsy. I mean, at Betty Geek on the interwebs. And listen to this podcast and other podcasts on the Grand Geek Gathering. Thanks.
Yay! And I'm Tyler from the Grand Geek Gathering. Go to our website, thegrandgeekgathering.com, for our articles, our videos, and our other podcasts, and so much more. Also, I'll be streaming here on Twitch every Friday, a Marvel Talk Back, and then we have some other live podcasts like DZBS, this one, Burn After Pitching, and a few other things. And also, Most Extreme Ranking Challenge live on Twitch will be happening starting in May, so look out for that. And also, our Less Extreme Ranking Challenges on Instagram TV, on Instagram Live. And yeah, have a wonderful week. Wear a mask and GGG.
Grand Geek Gathering.